this program, but everybody puts in their best foot forward. So if somebody needs some relief or sick, even I can end up on the kill floor, and even the program manager could possibly end up on the kill floor. So anyway, we all cover each other's backs and we take good care of each other. So anyway, out of the programs, there's really two sides: compliance and inspection. The inspection side that would be the man in the hat that you see doing the antemortem and postmortem of animals. He's in the facility every day to basically ensure the safety and wholesomeness of the products. Whereas in compliance is what myself and another gentleman by the name of Dave Stulzotz would do. We actually review the wholesalers and distributors. So I am the guy that as soon as you register as a wholesaler or distributor, I will come to your place. I will look at your meat. I will see how it's stored and do a one-on-one and a Q&A, question and answer with you. I also investigate consumer complaints, and also I work with the Attorney General's office investigating fraud cases, door-to-door salesmen, people representing meat different than what the grade is. So again, it gets really confusing. We have a federal program and a state program, and a lot of people, they don't really equate. They try to equate USDA and KDA as the same, but it's different. And the difference is that the USDA is a federal program. The KDA is the state program. Both of them are exactly equal to, and we perform the same tasks day in and day out. But our state inspection program, we are not more stringent than. We are equal to, but not more stringent than. Like I say, the main difference is state inspected meat has to stay in the state of Kansas. You'll see buffalo, elk, and fallow deer, and a lot of people get confused because some of those can be shipped across state lines with the KDA mark of inspection. So anyway, it gets a little confusing, and I'm not going to get into that right now, but kind of Adam Inman touched on a little bit on what is amenable and not amenable to what we call the laws. A good way to put this is if it has 3% raw meat or 2% cooked meat, we're going to regulate it through meat and poultry inspection. If it has less than that, let's say it's a quiche with only a sprinkling of bacon on top, then that would go underneath Adam Inman's program or our retail program. Slaughter processing categories, again, this gets really confusing, and I tell everybody who wants to wholesale meat, please tell the owner that you need this animal inspected on the slaughter, you need it inspected during processing, and it needs to bear the mark of inspection. Because even though it's a fully inspected plant, at any point in time, if they feel that that animal is going to go back to just the owner, they very well might just run it under their custom exemption and basically stamp it not for sale. And that is exactly what that means. It is not for sale at that point. So, and once it's marked to not for sale, it can never do the reverse. It can't go back into the inspection process. So anyway, if it's fully inspected, product can be sold wholesale or retail. If it's a custom, then anyway, if the animal's delivered by the owner, it goes back to the owner. A plant can be a custom plant, but they can buy in inspected and passed boxed meat, and they can slice, dice, mince, add ingredients to it, and sell it to the end consumer from their retail storefront. That's their retail exemption. They act like a grocery store. Again, like I said, please communicate it with the plant that you're going to sell this animal, or piece it out. A few inspection terms. I know everybody always hears the term HACCP, which is a Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point Plan. It is mandated that each plant runs a HACCP plan for their products, whether it's a fully cooked, shelf-stable, or a raw ground or raw not ground. They have to run their HACCP plans. The HACCP plan actually contains records, so we're going to expect to see temperatures. We're going to expect to see the zero tolerance for for fecal pus ingesta on the carcasses. Your plan is going to be very detailed. And within that plan, you're going to have the sanitation standard operating procedures. You're going to document every morning your equipment that it was clean and it's ready to go. And if not, you're going to put in a corrective action. So anyway, when you're under inspection, it's not easy to get there. And once you're there, you want to keep things going well. So anyway, the labeling part of stuff, everybody has a good way to put this. Everybody takes for granted what a label looks like, but they never really actually realize what it takes to make that label really work. And a few of the terms you'll see is the mark of inspection or a final copy or a sketch. You'll hear that sometime on the inspection lingo. But the features of the label, and this goes for whether it's meat or whether it's not a non-meat product, they all pretty much have the same 9 parts of it. And in the meat industry, you actually have to have, it's supposed to be a proper 4-part name. We do allow it to go to usually a 3. So you may see what's called a beef T-bone steak or a pork forearm roast. You'll see the mark of inspection, which is around an inspection, either says USDA or KDA inspected and passed. The ingredient statements, that's the tough part of it right there. If you're dealing with sodium nitrite and some restricted ingredients, you actually have to sit back and figure out parts per million to figure out exactly how much you can put in that product. The safe handling statement, it's part of it. There's going to, and this is the net weight statement. That's something that I talk to a lot of people about, because all the label has to have is NET, WT period after it. Okay. Now, if you see the line after it, will allow you to take a certified scale, and it has to be certified yearly, and to hand write in the net weight of that product. So if you're 1.08 pounds on your ground beef, that's what you're going to put on there. The safe handling instructions, and then the signature line would either be your business or it could be the locker plant. And again, the price per pound, you could give it a hand receipt along with the total price. And again, you always hear talk about regulations, and prior to the regulations, we actually have what's called the Kansas Meat and Poultry Inspection Act, the KMPIA for short. The federal people have what's called the FMI, Federal Meat Inspection Act. Again, they pretty well mirror each other. But seeing we've had a lot of websites and a lot of people out there really confused about what it takes to get things going, I decided to throw in some of our Meat and Poultry Inspection Act. And on this one, what you're going to see is basically what it says is that we have to cooperate with the USDA. All the casework that I do, I send it to them and it's for their review. A lot of times, if I do a case and I send it to them, it's because it might have been one of their federal plants, or it was interstate commerce of meat instead of in the state itself. Again, the KMPIA, there's some violations of the act, and I just picked out a few of them that seem to happen really quite often. And this one actually deals with, as you can tell, it's a meat food product. And the wording of it, it's integral on it. It's basically, it's human food, any act while being distributed or transported or while being held for sale, which can be adulterated or misbranded. So if you're transporting it without refrigeration and it starts to thaw out and gets in the danger zone, that could cause you an issue right there. On the big one, I've actually had a lot of questions about what it takes to actually build and operate their own slaughter plant on their own farm. And right in here, it says to engage in a business, and amendments to engage in business or operate a packing house, sausage plant, poultry packing plant, slaughterhouse, or poultry dressing plant, unless you're registered. So the first thing I tell everybody is if you want to open a plant, that's the first thing you need to do is call up and basically get registered and get some guidance. And again, part B of it says that you can't ship adulterated or misbranded product, and also that product is required to be inspected under the provisions of this act. You can't transport them unless they are. So anyway, with that being said, there's an actual, it seems there's a regulation for everything, and 65-6A31, it covers some really important information. And what it basically says in a nutshell is that the slaughtering by any person of an animal of your own raising, we're going to allow you to do that on your farm by yourself with members, and you can use that product for members of person's household, former members of such household, or person's non-paying guest employees. Okay, so basically what happens on the farm stays on the farm, okay? Any person operating a retail store basically brings in boxed meat, food products, or poultry products for sale to consumers at a retail in normal retail quantities, or prepares inspected carcasses, okay, for consumption of consumers' household members, non-paying guests, or employees. So any person operating a restaurant who only does inspect and pass carcasses. So really what it's saying is, if you're going to use the exemption on the farm, feel free, slaughter all you want. There's no limit to how many animals you can put in your own freezer, but keep it on the farm. It can't go to restaurants. It cannot go to anybody else except for your immediate family, non-paying guests, former members of the household. Okay? Now, provisions of the act relating to registration, humane slaughter, and humane handling with slaughter, sanitation, and adulteration shall apply. So basically a person custom slaughtering livestock and meat food products, again, it goes owner, members of the owner's household, or the owner's non-paying guests and employees, or custom prep by any person, firm, or corporation of the carcasses or meat food products derived by the slaughter of the livestock of such owner's person raising, or from game animals which are delivered by the owner thereof, such customs prep and transportation in interstate commerce of such custom articles. So again, what that's saying is you can basically take an animal to a custom plant, but you're going to sell the live carcass, okay? Or you're going to sell the live animal. Now, that carcass, usually you always hear somebody say, yeah, I'm going to sell this about a quarter, half, or the whole. And that's exactly what you're doing through a custom facility. And you just have to give people the opportunity to come to your place, look at the condition of the animal, and tell you what you want, quarter, half, or the whole, okay? At sometimes you can also see where a firm or corporation engages in a custom operation. How's a good way to put this one? Basically, if it's a custom animal and it has not received any inspection, it really needs to say one thing on the package. You don't have to put any other labeling on it except the words "not for sale." And after it's been prepared in a custom plant, again, that confuses everybody. But when it says not for sale, that's exactly what it means. It's not for sale. And you take it home, you consume it yourself for your immediate family, non-paying guests, former members of the household. Okay? Now, again, there's a regulation for everything. And if you're thinking about opening up a slaughter plant on your farm or building one somewhere and having people come into it, again, 656834 basically tells you if you're going to engage in the business that you're going to have to register with us as a meat broker or animal food manufacturer or a sausage house or whatever. So I always tell everybody, anytime you go into any business, there's always a registration that comes up. And a lot of times I've been seeing on a lot of websites where people are offering their slaughter services, whether they come to you or whether you take the animal to them. And I have to tell people that anytime that there's a violation of the act, sometimes there can get to be monies involved in that. And as you can tell by B in the fixed amount by the rules and regs, that basically if there's a violation, it could be not less than $100 nor more than $5,000 for each violation. So if you slaughtered 10 hogs for somebody, that could get pretty expensive. So anyway, if somebody's thinking about going out there and doing that, please don't. So anyway, and who all has to be licensed with us? Basically a wholesaler, an inspected custom slaughter or processing facility, animal food manufacturers, public warehousemen, and even a broker has to be registered with us. Wholesale guidelines, they're out there on our website, and really it's pretty darn easy. You just can't do what we call break bulk. If you have single packaged items that aren't properly labeled, they all have to stay in that main package. So no breaking the bulk on them. It has to be inspected and passed. Again, it's intrastate purposes unless you use a federal plant, then it can go interstate. It can be sold to hotels, restaurants, other institutions. I always tell everybody, check with your locals. Sometimes your health department has different regulations. And again, your facilities need to be kept in a sanitary manner. Again, keep your temperatures where they need to be. And keeping records associated with the business is always important. Roush just kind of hit on it a little bit, but if you don't keep your receipts, your invoices, your temperature records, and you get sued, guess who's going to win? Not you, that's for sure. So anyway, I always tell everybody you kind of have to think about the big picture. And in Kansas also, we do not have enough poultry slaughtering manufacturing places. So we do allow 1,000 bird exemption from the farm, but there are certain stipulations. They have to be for sale from the farm, and they're only birds raised by the grower. You cannot bring in poultry and slaughter it for somebody and give it back. That'd make you a custom plant. You don't engage in buying and selling other poultry products. Slaughter processing is not done at a facility. And registration and no labeling. So 20,000 bird. Again, the big difference is it helps you into your markets, and it increases your market, and it basically gives you a standard practice and procedure. And you basically know that it has to be, that you're using, that we're going to require you to build a facility. So that's where the sanitary standards, practices, and procedures come into place, okay? And again, once you do use that 20,000 bird exemption, it does have to have some information on it, basically your producer name, address, and basically an exemption 90-492 on it. And there's some contact information if you need to reach us. Are you there, Alyssa?
Yes, awesome. Thanks so much, Mike. Okay.
Sorry, that was a lot of information in a hurry, so I'm sure everybody's ears are burning.
So do we have any questions for Mike before we return back to the big room?
I have a question for Mike, and I'm actually kind of a coworker with Mike, but if someone's interested in learning more or has an idea, would you suggest maybe they call the Department of Agriculture and just kind of talk through their idea? And that way an inspector or someone on the meat and poultry staff might be able to listen to their idea or listen to their business plan.
Absolutely. That number, the 564-6776 that's on the screen right now, that goes right to our secretary, Krista Moore. And Krista has a really great base of knowledge. And if it gets a little more in depth for her, she can either put you actually to Tony George, our program manager, or they will kick you to me or another guy named Dave Stulzotz or another guy named Mike Pierce usually. And you can sure bounce off your ideas. And we are we are all pro business, and we try our hardest to get you going with as few hiccups as we can. So.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions?
I do. I have a question.
Okay.
This is Debbie Bearden, and I'm wondering about if Kansas is getting any closer to allowing or licensing or registering mobile processing units that can be used on the farms in multiple locations.
Yeah, there's actually, to the best of my knowledge right now, I think we have one mobile slaughtering unit. And are you talking red meat or poultry?
Either or both.
Okay, there's actually one of each out in western Kansas, and the poultry unit right now I don't think is being utilized. I think it's kind of caught up in some kind of a squabble, I guess. But the red meat actually is under USDA inspection, and he pretty well uses it for his own private feedlot that he has. We will allow it, and we actually have some guidance out there that we are sharing with people. The problem that we're running into with a mobile slaughter unit is every time that it goes to a different farm, and this is something that to think about if anybody's ever doing this, you actually have to have enough water on your mobile unit to finish the job, because each farm, even most farms are on a well usually, or water, and water is one of the main things that you're going to spray your carcasses with. And every stop that you make to slaughter an animal has to have what we call a water test to make sure you don't have any fecal coliforms or anything in your well. And that seems to be one of the major hindrances, is you can't carry enough water on the place to, do numerous animals. And then to get a water test takes a long time, a couple of weeks usually to get your testing back. So it takes a lot of planning for that. But no, we have plenty of guidance out there. And I say we've kind of visited with a few people, and I think the dollar amounts kind of scare them away a little bit, which is a shame, but.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were to use a mobile unit like that and they have the water, it would be only for personal consumption or family use? Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be basically slaughtered right on the farm for their own personal use, but we could go either way with that. It could be, a custom plant, or it could be a fully inspected plant. And, we could have an inspector stop out and inspect it. But then the problem is, you've slaughtered this animal, it's hanging in a cooler, but where are you going to process it out under inspection? Because, it's just not proper to slaughter and process in the same room. So anyway, the way the guy solved it over that owns a mobile unit is he went ahead, and if I'm thinking right, he does his slaughtering right there, and I think he can do up to 6 carcasses in that unit. Then he transports them to a brick and mortar building that is under federal